these speculative ideas of what you think it might be?
Well, I just don't think we know the universe well enough to make overwhelming, like we're cute with our whole discovering 3 feet outside of our planet with
Cute.
our scientific exploration, how we've just not gotten out there, you
Oh,
know?
look at those little
And
human.
I've watched
Trying
enough
to get
Bjork videos to realize.
the
have you have you seen the one she's got a video out, came out last year, called The Gate?
I don't think so.
Okay. The prologue of this video, you know how she creates worlds. She and Missy Elliott, they just create these like post-apocalyptic sci-fi universes where, you know, there's a UFO and you're fucking and you're line dancing underneath it. Sorry, I gotta remember that. So anyway, not Missy Elliott. Who was just saying before Missy Elliott? Who was dancing? Oh, Bjork. Bjork.
Okay. Yeah.
In the prologue of the video to The Gate, she's playing this weird flute, and there's all these little, like, sort of alien things that are floating around. Some of them look like vaguely like monsters. Some vaguely look like a kind of a bird creature. And they're moving in very strange ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I look at the supernatural and stuff is informed by the fact that I grew up in New Orleans. And the supernatural is an entirely different thing there. It is right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go anywhere or do anything. Like, you don't walk out your house without checking, make sure somebody didn't put a little gree on your doorstep.
Yeah, so you live.
Mm-hmm. You live in a world
In
between
reality.
worlds.
It's not a book you're reading. It's not a movie you're watching.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Because voodoo it's like Santeria, but it's one of these African religions with distinct gods that melded in really, really well with Catholicism in particular. So, the deities have cross meanings, like Osha is also Mary, and I'm getting that very wrong, but Eluya is, Elizabeth. So you have these cross references. And so when the practitioners of voodoo are doing this stuff, they're working between very, very, very different spiritual worlds, but they have the capacity to put it together to, like, change things. I don't know quite how. It was always one of those things I was very superstitious of, but not like taking it, just like, don't get involved in that. That seems witchy. And then, because of how I was born, my family has this idea, and okay, sure, maybe it's true. I was what you call a mermaid birth. So I was born in my amniotic sac, and my placenta was on my face. And in birth lore, that's called a mermaid birth, and they call the placenta the caul. And if the caul is on your face when you're born, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be psychic.
Are you psychic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally psychic.
Well, okay. So if
It's just one of those things, as I told my shrink the other day, I'm not into it. I'm just not into it.
Well,
But they made
you can believe something if you can believe in the ability of being psychic, if you believe that to be true, then so many other possibilities, the doors are open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
And I've seen those doors open.
yeah, and I think that's what most people's experiences are.
Hold on, try it again.
Whether they have an experience with a Bigfoot or a UFO or whatever, something strange out of this world, ghostly, if they have just that one experience, then suddenly they think anything's possible. And I think that's fair, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. And in on Earth, we've got all these beautiful different languages, right? And all it takes is for you to learn a little bit of another language before you realize there's an entirely different way to think about things, an entirely different way to use imagery and metaphor, and most of what you really need in order to get around in other languages is yes, no, thank you. Really? Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I'll see you later. It's mostly tags, right? Claro, pero like, entonces. Like, you don't need to speak Spanish to like jump on a conversation and just be there. And so I think it's the same way with like, I mean, it's clear there are other realms that we don't have access to, and I think we're um, criminally sensory deficient in being able to perceive other things. And yeah, it does take practice, and sometimes it takes a lot of Catholicism and a psychic that your mother makes you go to when you're 6 years old. This is tiny little Jewish woman. I mean, she was my height and I was 6.
Yeah.
And she takes my hand, and she has no fingernails because the Nazis pulled out her fingernails.
Yeah.
And she says, "You will give away everything. Don't give away everything. Watch her. She'll give away everything. She will even give away her food and her shirt. Don't let her do this." Like all this stuff.
Yeah, this
right?
Midnight in the Garden
All
of
these,
Evil.
whatever. It was too much. I was 6 years old. That stuff
Yeah.
haunts me
Yeah.
every day.
Mhm.
It haunts me every single day. On the other hand, there were some accuracies. But at 6 years old, are you absorbing that? Is that you becoming, or are you being told that?
Right. Yeah. But that's
So
the
you
problem
come,
is at that
you
age you're so impressionable.
sure.
But I mean that's how people are indoctrinated with religion, right? For
Oh,
the
absolutely.
most part, because you absorb it during those early days where you're most impressionable.
Right.
So,
Right. So I'm having this is the sort of thing. And then like you're in the French Quarter and you see like little symbols that make you really aware that, somebody did some voodoo down that block. You don't want to go into the cemetery where Marie Laveau is, even though that's where all the tourists go.
mhm.
We don't want to go there. We do not want to go there.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what my experience is from the other places. So, I would be sort of chatting with somebody, and I'd feel this intense tug on one shoulder, and I'm like, no. Tap, 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 tap. And then I don't do it anymore because it's extremely invasive and it's also extremely like psychologically kind of fucked. I was sitting next to this woman in a bar. I feel the heavy tap. I'm slightly drunk. She's slightly drunk. And I feel somebody go, I have to talk to her. I have to tell her. So I look at her and I said, do you know somebody named Chris? Did anybody tell me their name was Chris? No. Is this something I can divine? Yes. She says, yes. I said, Chris wants me to tell you that he was driving. And she just broke down. Because he and I think her sister
Mm-hmm.
Got into a car accident together. And her sister had some sort of issue where she shouldn't be driving, and so when they had the accident they weren't sure who was driving and they blamed it on her, and it is this whole situation that I didn't know anything about, but it gave this woman an extraordinary amount of relief rather.
Yeah.
She just was like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to know. And I've seen things. I've seen spirits in places that weren't Louisiana. I actually I didn't see this ghost. This ghost just like jumped into me and like lived inside of me for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Um,
You think that, I mean, obviously from what your mother exposed you to, do you think that just growing up in the area, like you said, where the supernatural is infused everywhere, that affects anyone who lives there's mind and that they can become more open-minded, more sensitive?
yeah,
Yeah.
way more sensitive because the magic is real there. Listen, when you're in New York, you're trying to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you're in New Orleans, you're going over to Buddy's with an extra Tupperware because he made gumbo.
Right.
It's more about music and food and love and enjoyment and dancing. And when you are involved in those things that we only associate with the happiness of indigenous people, like a simple society where you get what you need and you don't need to go to corporations for anything. That's what wealth is. So when you're in that world, you can acknowledge all kinds of other possibilities that have to do with love over generations. You feel it. You're there. Like my mother grew up, her grandmother and she have the same name. So my mother grew up looking at her name on a tombstone.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. When I see people on Instagram, they create that reality in a virtual way. I don't know why they want that or drawn to it, but they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they actually lived it, like you or your mother, would they do that still? Would they be obsessed with horror films and obsessed with, the occult,
right?
Or would it just be like,
see, I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't handle that stuff. Part of it is because I come from a military family and I've heard some terrible, terrible stories from Vietnam veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is because I grew up in an abusive home and I know what it sounds like when somebody's head hits a wall. Yeah. It's not what it sounds like in the movies at all. So none of that stuff appeals to me at all, because what really scares me is dishonesty. You know what I mean? What really scares me is not corruption, but misuse of power. Mm-hmm. What really scares me is a social deficit where Amazon controls the means of production and we just sort of fall in line.
Right. That's a horror film.
That's a real horror film, and we're living it right now. And I'm the black person and I don't want to die first.
No, things are changing now. Things are changing in film.
Now they'll kill the Asian first. Wait, no.
All right. Well, that's it. We've definitely gone over, so I really appreciate it, Camille.
Sure. No worries. If you want to talk about witches, I had to do some hexing this week. It's good to see you.
Love you too. Cheers.
Oh, I love you. Bye.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Coffee and UFOs, two of my favorite things. If you want to find out more about us, follow us on social media, but of course, like and subscribe down below if you appreciated today's content. And for more, follow me on Instagram at ParanormalNow or on Twitter, Paranormal_now.